Giro hits the first rest day. Are you excited? The classics are in full swing. Are you thrilled? Well, Paris-Roubaix gets canceled. I hope you're not depressed. But Julian Alaphillipe almost loses a race the way he did Liege Bastonge Liege. Now you've got my attention. Giro 2020 recap, first rest day in full swing. We'll talk about that a little bit. Gent Wevelgem, men's and women's, got some results for there. And hey, we have racing in Florida. What's up with that? Also, EF is asshole. 2020, 2007, 207 episodes in the book. That's what we've got going here for the Between Two Wheels podcast. I am Tyler Janke. I hope everyone is doing fine. EF is asshole. What's up with that? Well, first of all, so is Flow Bikes, but we'll get to that in a little bit later segment. And also, if you tune in on we'll try to do this on just the podcast, the audio only version. We'll put a little treat for you in at the end of this one, just to wet your whistle. It's hey, R.I.P. Eddie Van Halen, miss you, and great music. I don't know if you're fans of his. Maybe the debate goes on. Was he really the legend everyone thinks he is, or was he overhyped? I personally think, especially listen to the first album, Van Halen 1, or just Van Halen. Phenomenal album coming out of the gates, and that's just kind of my opinion. So maybe you could take that for what it's worth. EF is asshole. So yesterday we had in the break Laurens Warbasse, American, former national champion. He calls Warbasse slams Giro d'Italia Stage 9 winner Guerrero for lack of collaboration in breakaway. Guerrero was riding like a real asshole today. Let's see what Larry Warbasse has to say about this. And by the way, Larry Warbasse, nothing really to complain about other than I know he maybe put a lot of effort for that breakaway to stay away, but he still had to drop Castroviejo, who was putting in work in that break too. So you that could have been with you. Former U.S. national champion Larry Warbasse, AG2 Roland Mondial, slam Ruben Guerrero, EF Pro Cycling, winner of the Stage 9 Giro d'Italia, alleging the Portuguese rider had failed to collaborate sufficiently in the breakaway of the day. Warbasse said Guerrero didn't help at all, while Guerrero responded by defending himself, saying the important thing was the victory. On the 208-kilometer stage, starting in San Salvo, Warbasse and Guerrero were in an 8-man break, rain-soaked. Yeah, it was pretty nasty weather. So anyway, dropped in the previous day's climb. The second category ascended the Bosco del Sant'Antonio. Warbasse was fuming after he crossed the line in 5th place. Come on, Larry, settle down a little bit. Guerrero was riding like a real asshole today. He didn't help at all. So I just guess maybe he was smart, but he saved his legs for the sprint. Yeah, I had to do a whining voice because come on, Larry, just calm down, take a breath, and let's see what you got going on here. Warbasse told the reporters as the rain streamed down at the finish, no one liked the way he was riding. He was shirking, but that's bike racing. Guerrero defended himself strongly in his winner's press conference as he celebrated taking EF Pro's second stage summits win in the first week after Jonathan Caicedo scored victory on Mount Etna. Yeah, pretty impressive there. I used to be one of the guys that worked more in the breaks, Guerrero said. I did that in the Vuelta last year, where he finished second behind Jumbo-Visma rider Sepp Kuss at Santiera del Acabo, and again in Trinidad, where Stage 7 he took the sprint, second behind Alpecin Phoenix leader Mathieu van der Poel. By the way, 2 impressive second places behind those guys. Warbasse rode pretty well. Maybe he was going for the overall, Guerrero said. That's cycling. For me, the important thing is take a victory. The second was for our team. I can be really proud. Guerrero jumped from the break with Castroviejo 6 kilometers from the line. The Spaniard attacked and was the only one able to follow. Castroviejo was the strongest on the flat, where I was suffering, and I had to save energy in the last kilometer, which I knew would suit me well. I didn't work so much in the break. The important thing was the win. Warbasse said he had suffered badly before the finale. I was really, really, really on the limit on the second to last climb. I gave it everything. I was really disappointed because I thought I got in a breakaway. I could win today, but I could not. Yeah, that's a bit of a bummer, Warbasse. It was cool to see you up in the break, and I was hoping for good things from you. And then not so impressed with the comment there. That's a little disappointing that you'd get a little worked up over. Anyway, it's what happens. Maybe you get rid of him. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Thomas de Gent the other day. He was in the breakaway, and I forget who the rider he was with in the Giro, and that guy wasn't working, and he towed him all the way up, I think, to like sew up some of the break. And then they were getting dropped. And then he said his whole purpose in the break that day was to make sure this guy got dropped, didn't win. And he did so, and he sacrificed his own. Larry, you could have possibly done that as well. But that is bike racing, and you can complain all you want, but the reality is Guerrero got the win, and that's one of the things we're going to take a look at here. Some of the exciting things that have been happening so far in the Giro. It's a recap day, and I don't know, has it been exciting? I mean, we hit stage 3 of Mount Etna. That was pretty good. And then we had, it's got climbing stuff all throughout, but then even today's the rest day, Monday, October 12th, 2020. And then we've got basically the whole week. There's some other mountain stuff in there, but not a mountaintop finish until we get to, we have the time trial Saturday, stage 14, and then we have big mountains on Sunday. So you might have to wait a whole week of the Giro, and then it's just packed. That last week, they're up north. They're just going to hammer the climbs right and left. So you're going to get a lot of that coming up. And then 2 more time trials. It ends with the time trial as well. Just give some of the highlights here. They've won 2 stages. Caicedo on stage 3, and then Guerrero just happened on, stage 9. Filippo Ganna, he wins 2 stages as well. Remember, he started off with the time trial, winning the time trial there. I wouldn't call it a prologue because it was 15K. And then he won it in the mountains, and he did that pretty impressively. Stage, I want to say stage 6 or 7 there. 5. Maybe it was 5. Stage 5. He won, and it was pretty impressive. And he's one of the bigger guys, big engine. And if you remember, and I had made a comment, I said someone to check this as well. Back in Tour de San Luis, he was in the break with Remco Evenepoel, Brandon McNulty, who's doing decent in this race, and several others up the climb, one of the big stages. I want to say 3 or 4 of that tour, that stage. And he ended up 4th or 5th that day. Very impressive. That's a long drag climb. He's just got an engine he can just set to whatever that diesel number he needs to be, and he can power away on the front. And so he was able to do so here as well. He had, so he won stage 5, I want to believe. Demar, he's won 3 stages, stage 4, 6, and 7. Sagan, note, he was second to him on stages 4 and 7. Michael Matthews was second to him on stage 6. João Almeida, he's been in pink since Etna, and he's probably going to stay in pink until next Saturday. I think as you can see, he was able to climb well enough on Etna to take the pink jersey then, and he, DeQuanta Quick-Step, they're protecting him. There'll be almost 2 weeks, I think, in the pink jersey going into the last week for that team. That's quite impressive. It's kind of like the Julian Alaphillipe last year. Simon Yates, he suffered a little bit on stage 3, and then we found out he had some symptoms, comes down with COVID-19, and he's out of the race. So far, I haven't heard any ramifications from his team getting anything as well as far as COVID goes. Israel Startup Nation, they got a stage win with Alex Dowsett. So good for them. It's kind of are they setting themselves up for next year? I don't think Dowsett, I think his wife is having a baby. I don't think he's got a contract for next year. On for him. See if you can pull some strings, get that new father a job. And like I said, we might not have any changes until stages 14 or 15 coming up. So let's just, how about if we take a look at some of the results that we've had over the last few, let's see, Pro Cycling Stats. We'll share the screen here and just talk about, so we saw Guerrero, Castroviejo, Mikkel Berg. It's a little disappointing. He and Kilian Franchini, they were both with Larry Warbasse, and they were able to get rid of him. So Warbasse it is. Theo Gegenhardt, he sped up, got a little break off with Lucas Hamilton from the group. And then in the last K, by the way, the last 1K was pretty nasty steep. And it was, it caused some problems in the GC field as well with Kelderman getting, he ends up getting some time over João Almeida, because Almeida came in 156 back. Wilco Kelderman at 138. So you're looking at about 20 some seconds there. Brandon McNulty, steady on with 13th place, 144 back. So losing just a few seconds to Kelderman. Evidently Fulsang and Nibali, they've been having some sort of go at it with each other. And they both come out and said, hey, we're going to promise that we're going to focus on other people than just ourselves. Evidently they saw what Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel were doing at the Gent Wevelgem, and they decided they didn't want to look like such idiots themselves. So I don't know what they'd actually been doing. Joe Dombrowski, 201 back. Remember Joe Dombrowski, American? He rides with UAE. He's there. You got 2 Americans there in the top 20. McNulty, actually three Americans. Really, really well done. Warbasse in 5th, McNulty in 13th, and Joe Dombrowski in 25th, just for the stage. So let's take a look. And actually, we're going to highlight the Americans on the GC. We've got quite a few more in here than we did in the Tour de France this year. McNulty's in 18th place, 2:45 out. Warbath, 6:58. So he took some time back. Dombrowski, 7:20. Joey Roskoff, he had a chance when Ghana won the other day of Dowsett won the other day of possibly being able to win that too. And Dowsett, they were not able to bring him back. They did a little circuit. He was able to, like 20K circuit or so, 15 maybe, and he was able to stay away on the climb. They tried to bring him back, and Joey was trying as well with CCC. Ended up, I think, 4th or 5th on the day in the field sprint there, just behind him. Chad Haga, 45 minutes. He's already out of it. And Lawson Craddock, 1 hour, 12 minutes already after 9 full stages. Points jerseys. Let's go back to all our riders, including all nations. Okay. Just some highlighting there kind of from the different stages that we've gone through from the Giro, and maybe a few little more highlights. Like I said, Dowsett was able to come through for a win, but you've got Demar with 3 stage wins so far, 2 of those being close with Peter Sagan and 1 with Michael Matthews. The one with Michael Matthews, Demar just kind of popped out real quick and took a easy lead. It had a little bit of an uphill, and so he was able to take that, or came in weird. The other ones, Peter Sagan, it almost looked like they were getting pushed into the barriers on one the other day, but Peter Sagan, there was actually Demar held his line quite well, and Sagan just can't come around. He is just not quite, he's getting a lot of seconds. Remember a few years ago when he was winning the world championships, and he had a ton of second places and everyone was making a big deal about it. Finally, he gets the win. I don't know if that was the year he was squeezing asses on the podium of that girl, but he was having a lot of trouble getting anything. But, you think about it, you go, oh, second place. If I had all these second places, I think I'd be sitting pretty and feel just fine about it. But as it is right now, he is having a little bit of trouble. And so with that, people start to talk, and is he kind of over and done? And if he's over and done, then who's the next sprinter on the block? And with that, we had Mark Cavendish coming in again, Wevelgem, and maybe he's ending his time as well. But I thought we'd walk through some of the stages here from Steep Hill and kind of remember kind of what's happened over the last few. I mentioned a few of them here, but we talked about that. Look at, and we can see with Sagan. So Ghana wins obviously stage 1. Stage 2, we come in here, and Ulisi gets the upper hand on Peter Sagan. He gets a second place there as well. That's at least 1 second place. Stage 3 was Etna. We remember that one. That was Caicedo winning with the EF jersey. Luckily for him, he only had to wear his Columbia. At Colombia, he's Ecuador National Championship jersey, so he did not have to wear the full duck uniform. And then that's when we saw Almeida take over, Bilbao, Kelderman, all those guys. That was a big nasty climb up to Mount Etna. We saw those suffer from Yates, a few other guys. Stage 4 saw Demar get his first win, Sagan in second place. Stage 5, Ghana, he gets the win there over Patrick Conrad, Yalameda, local Kelderman, Lewis Hamilton, Jai Hindley. So that was not the stage with Joey Roskoff. Yes, I had corrected that already. Then we had stage 6, got another win by Demar, easily over Michael Matthews. And if you could look at that one, he posts up super. And by the way, we'll talk about posting up here in a little bit. But start taking a look at these sprinters, these true sprinters and their post up, and where they're actually the line is when they're posting up. These guys are knowing how to do it. They understand the photo op is necessary, but they also understand something that the Julian Alaphillipe doesn't, that the photo op comes second to guaranteeing the win. Stage 7, once again, Demar, the nice win with a little bike throw there over Peter Sagan. That's at least 3 or 4 second places. And all this time, Almeida's been in the lead. Alex Dowsett winning stage 8 over Puccio, Salvatore Puccio, Matthew Holmes, and Joey Roskoff. Roskoff could not get on the podium on that one. He ended up the worst of those 3 on the day. And then we had yesterday the asshole, according to Larry Warbass, Ruben Guerrero wearing the Mighty Ducks jersey. Excuse me, is that my throat? Of the EF Education First and their Palace Ducks or whatever it is jersey that they had there over Jonathan Nicholas Castroviejo, Michael Berg, which I think Berg had been riding with the local, not the local. Cole Davis rides for them. Why can't I think of this? It's Axel Merckx's team. And Killian Franchini and Larry Warbass all ahead with Jai Almeida in the pink jersey. So we got coming up here, rest day today, Tuesday. Then we have a bunch of these others, a lot of rolling, punchy, climby stuff going back and back and back. The time trial, which is 34.1 kilometers on a Saturday. And with that, it's a decent rolly time trial. Then you've got 203 kilometers. I'm sorry. 185 kilometers up to Piancavallo on Sunday with some nasty climbing. And we'll probably break that down as the week comes and goes. All right. How about some other things? Well, Julian Alaphillipe, I think did he learn his lesson? I don't know. We're maybe thinking he learned his lesson from his exploits at the Brabantspil race. Okay. That guy, he had a nice break with Matthew Van der Poel, Bennett Kosnefoy, and Van der Poel. Van der Poel, while we know he's great, and was at Amstel Gold last year, we had the screaming sprint, and he's winning everything, and we're all super impressed with him. Doesn't always come to the point where you're going to continue to always be impressed just because he can sprint pretty good and he's got a lot of power. He won the Brinkbank Tour this year. It doesn't mean that he's going to pull out. And you had everybody but Kosnefoy seemed to be on a mental demented state going into this final. Kosnefoy, who we had seen in the polka dot jersey for quite some time at the Tour de France. He had done well at Liege. He had his rear derailleur mech problem, and he's been up there and running and doing well. So he finally gets a chance here. Gets in the break, the top end break with Alaphillipe and Matthew Van der Poel. They're coming into the sprint, and Julian opens it up. Well, Kosnefoy does. I don't know what he could have done other than lead the sprint out, other than and still get third. Does he sit on one of those guys' wheel and try to come around him? Does he try to jump first? So I think he just knew, hey, I might as well go to the front and see if these two guys can screw it up from behind. And what ended up happening was Alaphillipe is in third place behind Van der Poel's in second, and he starts to come up around him, and he actually squeezes in Van der Poel. But Van der Poel, this is on the right-hand side, and Van der Poel lets himself get kind of set in, wait. I don't know why he's waiting. He's got the biggest punch. Matter of fact, he's got the biggest power sprint of those three, whereas Julian more has a kick. So why let him try to stay on your wheel and then kick around you? Why not just blast it from a little bit further out? Instead, he waits too long, and then he has to come all the way around Julian Alaphillipe and go through on his left, because everyone's got in mind, deviate from your line a little bit, you're going to be DQ'd, as we saw in Liege. And he kicks hard for the line. Julian Alaphillipe posts up a good bike length early and almost gets beat again at the line. Okay, so there's a few things here. One, there's no way Van der Poel should ever have been beat by Julian Alaphillipe in that sprint. I'd say with his power, three of them on a 3-up sprint, and with Kosnefoy being willing to, for some reason, to lead them out, you put that situation there. 7 out of 10 times, you're going to have Van der Poel win just out of the sheer fact that he can generate a lot more power. So he allowed himself to go too late. He allowed himself to get boxed in. And I say allowed yourself because there's no reason he shouldn't. I mean, he should have started to come by and forced Alaphillipe to go wide around him instead of him being able to actually stop, in a sense, come back and then have to sprint around the outside. And then you've got Alaphillipe. Dude, you just said you lost Liege legitimately before the DQ. You lost Liege with a early post up. So you said, I'm never going to post up early again. I'm going to, I'm not going to deviate from my line. I'm going to be good. Okay. So you didn't deviate from your line, but you posted up again and you allowed him to almost get you. If he had just come a little bit quicker to begin with and not done that, and you posted up like that, you would have been 2 for 2 on the idiot spectrum. Instead, you both kind of deserve what you got in a sense. I don't know. Alaphillipe, he gets away with it, I guess. I don't know if he deserved he deserved to lose possibly too. But if you look at the sprinters, the real big sprinters, because I start to notice this when they post up, and if you actually look at the overhead, a lot of times you're seeing them, they're across the line and then they're posting up. There's plenty of, and you don't think they're not getting their picture taken across the line by the press at the end? No, they are. Those guys are they're throwing their bike, they're doing whatever, and then they're posting up after the line. There still gets a picture taken. It doesn't get nullified, the picture, because you're across the line. It still looks just as good. Matter of fact, it might look better because you see the distraught looks of the guys you just beat behind you. So when you're clear winner, why not sprint all the way to the line? And personally, I hope that Alaphillipe doesn't learn anything from this, and he gets nailed with it again, because it is a little bit of an interesting take on the situation. So we've had a few different races going on here. We had Paris Tours going on. We had Gent Wevelgem going on. Casper Pedersen wins Paris Tours. I mean, Saturday was a full day. I get up Sunday gets up. I ended up watching Paris Tours first. Then I went and did the replay of the women's Ghent, and then I did the replay of the men's Ghent, and then I got to see the Giro d'Italia as well. So Paris Tours, we had Casper Pedersen winning over Benoit Cosnefroy. Once again, Cosnefroy doing what he can, but not quite to the extent that he's a good rider. I just don't know that he has a chance of actually making it as far as the sprinting against some of these guys. So Pedersen wins, Team Sunweb. Cosnefroy gets beat in the sprint. Joris Nieuwenhuis, Team Sunweb, winning the field sprint behind over Valentin Madouas and Warren Barguil, and Petra Vakov and Roman Bardet. So not a hefty group there for Madouas and Joris to have to overcome, but in the same respect, they did what they had to do. Then we also had Gent Wevelgem. So let's talk about the men's, and then we'll talk about the women's as well. Men's race, really good race. Started to see things pare itself down to the top 10 here. You get in a break. You have Mads Pedersen, you had Florian Seneschal, you had Matteo Trentin, you had Alberto Bettiol, Stephen Kung, John Degenkolb, and I'm giving this the top 7 here. Yves Lampert, Wout van Aert, Mathieu van der Poel. Then there was a Dylan Toynes kind of in between, but then that had all the way up to, I want to say about maybe 15, well, let's see, 18, right up here to the top 18 were all in a break, and they got split up with, want to say, around 6, 8, 10 to go when Bettiol kept pushing things on. Van der Poel and Wout were doing that as well. And when they come into the finish, Bettiol, all these guys kind of hit the front, Degenkolb. Lampert, he had a teammate up there with him, Seneschal, so he was doing some work leading him out. And then when you had a little bit of a split coming in, Alberto Bettiol, Mads Pedersen ends up taking the win quite nicely. Matteo Trentin was obviously a threat, but you had Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel not even contesting for the sprint because they were so concerned. Well, as a matter of fact, the top 3 or 4 kind of had a little bit of a gap, doing a little shake and bake coming into the finish here. But you had Van der Poel and Wout van Aert, top 2 guys. I mean, let's not take anything away from world champion Mads Pedersen. Did great work for Richie Porte in the Tour de France. By the way, you're seeing a lot of these Tour de France guys that did a lot of work and a lot of action and were very, in the forefront of the tour, doing just fine in all these races. Pedersen, Matteo Trentin, Bettiol in there. I don't remember if he was as well. Obviously, Wout van Aert was in there. You had in some of these other races, obviously, being able to see Mark Hirschi, Julian Alaphillipe, Cosnefroy is another one that's really kind of coming to the front here. So, something to be said about the fitness that they got out of this compact year in this. Anyway, so you see the sprint being nullified. And once again, Wout and Mathieu van der Poel looking at each other to the point where they stared each other down for an 8th and 9th instead of getting a classic win. Bummer. Says something about maybe not trying to nullify each other out and looking at that one person, so much so that you end up seeing the race go up the road. And that happened a lot. I must say I was pretty impressed with Bettiol. He was doing a lot of attacking and then following moves. And sometimes you get, when you're singled out there, I mean, he ended up, one of the moves he did, ended up squeezing out his own teammate, Sepp Van Mark. So there was a split in that front group, and he ended up getting the front one. Sepp Van Mark didn't make it up there, but then, kind of put Betty all on the point where he didn't have to do a lot of work, although he still did. Anyway, good Gent. As far as the women go, that was also a decent, there was like 2 breaks there, decent sized break, if I want to say about 9 or 10. Followed just, they only had like 20 some seconds to a group back there. Lauren Stevens of Team Tibco, NorCal. She was in that break, and I was really hoping for some good things from her. But as it was, the Bulls Doman, Amy Peters, was able to lead out her teammate, Jolien Dehor, gets a nice post-up win, once again, not before the line, over Lottie Kopecky of the Lotto Sudal team, and Lisa Brennauer, I think she's a German national champion on the Kretz WNT Pro Cycling. Serroir Roy, is it Wa or Roy? For Mitchelton Scott in 4th. Marta Cavalli of Valcar Travel and Service, and Lauren Stevens in 6th. Demi Bollerine, the Park Hill Falkenberg team. Lizzie Dynan, Trek Sigafredo team in 8th, and Amy Peters of Bulls Doman. Trek Sigafredo, I think they also, too bad for Lizzie, but right behind her was Lisa Borghini in the next group, and she was, almost caught him at the line there. There's 8-9 seconds between those two. Other than that, what do we have from Ghent? Well, it was what it was. And so coming up, we do on the schedule, we're going to be able to have some other cool races coming up here. Unfortunately, Paris-Roubaix has been canceled, but we do have Flanders, not Ned, but the Ronde van de Vlaarden, coming up on the 18th. So that's coming up on the weekend. There's De Pan. And then the Vuelta. The Vuelta starts on the 20th. We're going to be 1 week away from the end of the Giro, overlapped with Scheldeprijs. That's coming up on the 14th as well, the midweek here. And it also reminded me, we'll just talk real quick about that. You had Cavendish. Cavendish was in the break early on in Ghent. And when Van der Poel and Wout and them kind of all caught up to the break, he was in there for a bit, and it was like, hey, cool. But then he got kind of spit out with the churning of the top guys, just really blasting it up some of those cobbled climbs. Took him out of the position, and next thing you know, he's crying at the finish, saying, "Hey, maybe this is going to be my last race ever." Wiggins ended up coming out and says, "Hey, this is not the way we want to see Mark Cavendish go out." No, it is not the way we want to see Mark Cavendish go out. But at least we got to see Mark Cavendish in the break. I'm doing something. I know he's been injured. He's had some issues, this and that, and hitting the back of a car out there in the desert before the race even starts. So it's been a tough several years for him. But we could also remember the Mark Cavendish, who he is, and what he is, and what he's given to us. So enjoy that as well. I don't know that he's necessarily going to be, he might be retiring. When you start saying things like, this might be the last race ever, maybe it's a good time to listen to what they're actually progressing and predicting for himself. How about some winners and losers? And then I thought we'd talk about some comments that we've gotten on some of the last videos, and then a little bit of an update on our YouTube channel and some other things. I want to say EF. There are 2 stage wins in the Giro. They had a stage win with Martinez in the Tour de France, a really great one there. Really looking to be on the upward slope, and hopefully for them it helps solidify any kind of sponsorship issues that you might have. Other than that, though, the losers, I would happen to say, are any of us here who happen to like that jersey or see that jersey. If you like it, give me a comment. Look, honestly, I'm getting used to it now, seeing it in the Giro, and it's easy to spot when you're in there. So it's okay. They also have their almost like a retro bike paint job. So everything's kind of deviating from their pink. And it almost makes me like, I look at their pink kit now and I'm like, hey, kind of like that pink kit. It's not so bad. But that's what it takes. Then that's what it takes. Losers, I said it was them, but it's also Flow Bikes. I'm getting a copyright strike again from Flow Bikes. Wait, we'll return to this in a second. Brian Zimney, he has a comment here. He says, Wiggins said Cav should be allowed a contract for as long as he wants. Ridiculous. Yes, that is ridiculous. How about as long as he is it? That's completely ridiculous. Otherwise, you'd still have Phil Gaiman with a contract, right? And I think it's up to you to show you're worthy. I would have to look at, maybe Brian, you can say what his reasoning was for that. Is it just like your longstanding, why not? I mean, why is Wiggins not still have a contract? He's not really racing either. He's racing about as much as Cavendish is. Back to Flow Bike. So they did a copyright strike on our YouTube channel. And once again, what happens with that is they just don't allow you, they take the video down. They then don't allow you to do any live streaming on there. So once again, we're doing it on Facebook until we get that cleared up. I sent them a nice demand letter, and their reply back was even more ridiculous, because it showed they didn't know, one, copyright law, even though it was to their copyright division, and two, it showed that they didn't actually watch or pay attention to what the video is, because there's facts misstated were so poor. I can't even get into it. Even if their facts were true, it doesn't mean that there was a strike against copyright and fair use. So we've pleaded against that again to YouTube, and what's going to happen is they're going to end up not having a strike against us, and we're going to be fine, because I actually know the law on this, and we're perfectly fine. You transform, you can have criticism, do all kinds of things to their material, as long as you're not just showing it straight out there as if you're broadcasting it from them, and it's under fair use claim. So with that said, we're kind of screwed again, and it sucks because they're using it like a hammer. They know they are. They strike all these little things. I even had little clips up on Instagram, and they hit that one. So, but I did have a side note. If anybody out there has subscribed to Flow Bikes, I would kind of like to get your input. If you go there, they have broadly stated, they show that you can get a monthly subscription, and there's 2 boxes usually. You can click one, monthly, yearly. But I want to know if anybody has done that and then been charged for a year, because I think that's kind of what they're doing. So I'd like any feedback that anyone has. Let's see. Brian Zimney is still commenting here about Wiggins stuff. British Homerisms. Yeah. And we're not talking about the Iliad, are we? We're not talking about Homer Simpson. We're talking about Homer being like, hey, favoritism, I guess you would say. It doesn't make sense though. Last I checked, I don't think Bahrain is under, I don't think they're under the British Empire anymore. And I don't think they ever were, but maybe they were. Wasn't that how that was divided out there after one of the world wars? So that's what we have. Let's go to some comments from video. I did episode 205. That was talking about the media's treatment of Quinn Simmons. Some of these people, I'm trying to get some of these people really took this. Well, first of all, we'd already made a correction video that Colin Kaepernick equals Kobe Bryant. So make sure you get that when you read it. Sean Bagley said, one guy says, Sashi Jerem said, how dare you have such a sensible, well-analyzed take on this? This is not what we do on social media. Yes, I will like that as of right now. And I appreciate that. I guess that's somewhat of support. This is the one, and it is still up there. I had said it was taken down, but it is not. That guy says, TW, covertly supporting apathy is a problem, which has led to bad and exploded in 1939. Remember that. Just don't raise your kids poorly, and remember, don't treat others poorly. Not cool. So yeah, that's where someone decides to share or compare Quinn Simmons to, once again, Hitler. That seems sensible. And a few other comments in there. Let's go to, and then I posted up episode 206. I did a little bit of a highlight video showing kind of a little take breakdown, kind of well, some of it were corrections as well. And with that, we got some more comments. So I thought we'd read through some of those. This person calls themselves the Judge. They say, natural gift is not usually given to your powers, muscle and brain. It is the journey to understand yourself where is given more. Learn quick to avoid putting yourself in troubles, Quinn. Good job, Tyler. Might be English as a second language on that one, but I think their point is, hey, you've got talent, muscle, you got brain talent, maybe. They're not always just given as to which one you have. So you sometimes takes a journey to understand yourself. And yes, Quinn Simmons is still learning to understand himself, I think, at his age of 19. And so if you guys want to make comments on either one of those, please do. Lastly, I got nailed on Twitter by this, I don't know. I would gladly call him Antifa, but Curt might I balk at that. So he really came about it and basically called me a clown. A lot of what he was, and it's a white guy, of course. So once again, he didn't like the fact that I said it's white people getting upset at other white people for doing things. And so he white-splained to me a lot here, called me a lot of racist names as being white, which is always interesting. You don't understand, and so I'm going to judge you as a white person, right? That always works. So I just said thanks and if you want to read that, you go to the Between Two Wheels podcast, our Twitter handle there, and it's someone called Toby'sism, and he went off a little bit on me. So good for him. And by the way, he was really going down the route. This is kind of the point here, and then we'll be done for the day. He kind of went down the point of talking about Quinn Simmons and his comments to Corey Williams. Okay. Now, I don't think first of all, Quinn's comments were not racial. He said it wasn't fast enough. So I haven't seen any, in Pro Cycling Tips, they come out and they said that Quinn had previous entanglements with, over issues of race. So Corey Williams was bringing out the race angle, right? He said, you don't understand. I didn't make this. And like when I had commented about it, I'm like, yeah, maybe the way you're describing your results, it's maybe you were overlooked. But I haven't seen anybody, because let's see how brave, Pro Cycling Tips as an example, they do analysis. Why don't you do an analysis of Corey Williams and his race results to all the guys that were picked at that time, and let's see if on his merits he was overlooked. Because to do so, it sounds like what this guy on Twitter is saying, and Cycling Tips in general, is you can't. And by the way, maybe Corey was overlooked. Dude's pretty awesome. But like I said, a lot of the stuff the U23 is doing, it's road races, it's the classics, it's climbing, it's not crits, which is what he's all about. But to question it, you're a racist, and that's not cool. You should be able to, Corey can assert that and go, okay, but let's take a look at you on your talent, and let's see if you were given a fair shot. If you weren't, let's add it up. And if these results, because he says, by the way, if you look at it, he says, I won a national road race. Okay. Was that Valley of the Sun as a Cat 2? Because I think that might have been one of them that you did. That's a little bit different than winning, something else. Joe Martin as a pro, as an example. So let's take a look. I did a brief thing of his national champion as amateur road race results, and I couldn't find anything inside the top 40. So that makes a difference. And then you got to look and see who is competing against. So let's compare some people on their actual merits, and don't be afraid to, if you do, let's not call people racist for doing that. Now, did Quinn Simmons go about it the right way? No, I don't think you DM Corey and you just go off on that. But then again, I've heard inside stuff about how Billy Ennis was treated, and probably it wasn't the greatest either. So there we have it. All right, everybody, that's all we have for today. The Giro. Let's watch the Giro coming up. Let's watch middle of the week Schilderpress, and then we have Flanders. So the Ronde van der Vlaarden, and everyone says yes. We're all happy about that. So thank you, everybody. Between Two Wheels podcast, episode 207. Take care. Enjoy. Get on the bike. It's supposed to be nice weather again here for us in Northern California. I hope it's going to be nice for you wherever you are. All right. Later.